Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane.
No, Jeremy, that's a speeding train with Spider-Man.
Oh my god, that's just like September 7th, 2011.
Oh, just like when Chevron settled the gas tank allegations.
No, I was actually this isn't a law history podcast. I was referring to the release of Action Comics #1 of the New 52 when Superman saved the train just like in Spider-Man 2.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's hand it over to Jon and Jeremy. Right, here we are in the Fortress of Solitude, ready to review Action Comics #1.
Did we already do that?
No, we did not.
I think that was like one of our pilot episode that's available on our website.
You're getting that confused with the past. This is from the New 52.
Oh, okay.
That's
What's that?
right. Forget about the old 52. The New 52 initiative from DC Comics is assuming that there was an old 52.
I just like for you to go into this whole corporate spiel.
The New 52, changing lives.
For the better.
Some for the better, depending on who's writing.
Yes.
This is the New 52, the big 2011. This is actually, well, whatever. It's 2011 is when this came out. All the DC Comics were rebooted thanks to Pandora's and whoever the fuck.
It was due to the Flash.
Due to Pandora was there. And quick side note before we get into anything, Pandora got her big payoff in Trinity War, and it was like, here's forever evil. That's what we mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what the New 52. The New 52 has since kinda-sorta ended, but not really.
Not really at all. Really, like only the thing we're about to review, the New 52 Superman, has ended. Everything else is still going strong.
So we kind of come full circle here with Action Comics.
Yeah.
This is the first issue, and this, of course, this story takes place like 5 years
early. Before
whatever.
we get into all this, look, you might be reading this. Maybe you've never read it before. Maybe you want to read it while drinking.
Yeah, and if you're anything like me, you read everything while drinking. So
He actually, it's a real problem when he's looking at street signs while driving. He's had several run-ins.
The Batmobile knows the way home.
So for me, I have a drinking game for y'all. Every time you're reading Action Comics #1 from the New 52, and you forget for a moment that you're not reading a Spider-Man comic, you finish your drink and pour yourself a new one.
You pour, and one for your dead homies. And this Superman is now a dead homie, but we'll get to that eventually, maybe.
Only if you're drinking a 40 do you have to pour it out for your homies, like John over here.
I finished my 40. I was drinking a 40 of... Do we just say what the fuck we were drinking? Okay, I was drinking a 40 of Corona, and I have since finished it. I didn't think I was. So, and Jeremy, you're
still dropping a dooski? Jack and
still
dropping
a dooski, and you can drink a dooski while playing my drinking game for this issue. My drinking game for it is anytime Clark is meant to look menacing with red eyes and his heat vision, do you take a drink? Anytime Superman is meant to look scary as all hell, that you just take a drink. So let's
and this actually applies for after this issue too. So every time you ever in your life see Superman with red eyes, you need to immediately find a drink and drink it.
Just drink it. Just don't even pay for it. Just
be a rebel.
Be a goddamn rebel. So let's get into it. This is Action Comics. This is the big new relaunch of everything, and with this issue, it's important to remember that this is a younger Superman we're dealing with.
Yeah, he's supposed to be about 5 years younger than we've ever seen him. It's sort of in this middle time frame. That the only time we've ever seen him like this in anything previously is Smallville. Everything else has always skipped over this time of his life.
Right, and I think in the issue it says he's been active for like 6 months or something.
He's been active for about 6 months, yes.
So we're in year 1 Superman, and it shows because Superman doesn't even have his real costume yet. That comes later, and I think of the
I liked the jeans and t-shirt.
Really, because I didn't really care for it, but I understood why.
I totally like the fact that it's not like, oh, here's this fully formed suit that I have that I'm creating.
Yeah,
it's like I'm fighting crime. Hey, I know that this is the thing from my home planet, so
right.
I made a shirt of it. That's what I'm wearing.
I mean, it looks ugly, but I guess that's the point. he's like a farm boy.
He's raised. I get you get the feeling, which we've discussed this before. This is one of the few times you ever get the feeling that Clark was raised poor.
Yeah, it really is. And Clark kind of stays poor.
Yeah, it's sort of like we have George Reeves, where you could tell he was raised poor, and then you feel like he was a rich kid until New 52.
Yeah, like even in Lois and Clark, you figure, and in Smallville, they're making some money.
In Smallville, they talk about their money problems all the time, but it doesn't show. That
fridge is full.
That fridge is very full,
and they're easily able to house and room and board, like it's a revolving door of people who stay at the Kent farm.
Mainly just Lois,
but Chloe shows up all the time unannounced and shit.
Yeah, but she doesn't stay there.
Yeah, well, it's because Clark kicks her the fuck out.
After giving her a knowing look, like, hey, maybe you have a chance, but not tonight.
But not really ever. But in this, we get a poor Clark because he's so struggling. He doesn't work for the Daily Planet just quite yet.
Right.
He's like he's a journalist.
He's a journalist.
See, he's working for like the Daily Star or something, right?
He wants to be a reporter.
And I like the fact that here are the things I like. I'm going to go with things I like about this issue because there's a shit ton I don't like.
Okay.
The things I like that it's realistic that he would wear the shitty costume.
Yeah.
And it's realistic that he didn't get the fucking Daily Planet job immediately.
Yeah.
And he's sort of frustrated. He wants to do the right thing. And he's young. He acts appropriately young in this. Because there's this whole fucking... And it's very similar to the original Action Comics, where there's some corrupt people in power.
That was one of the things. I love the fact that the original Action Comics, the last thing Superman does in that is stop somebody who's corrupt in power. And the first thing he does in this is stop someone who's corrupt in power. It's almost like a continuation.
And I enjoyed Lex in this. I thought that was like a good Lex, sort of boring.
That's my least favorite part of this whole thing. Is Lex.
Lex didn't stand out to me. It was one of these things where, yeah, that's Lex, I guess. Yeah. It wasn't really good or bad.
No, it was very bland Lex.
Sipping
champagne.
Champagne. He could have used like a stare down with a snake or something.
Yeah, come on, give me was it John Lachey?
Yeah, or some shit like that. Things I didn't like about it. I didn't like, and again, this is stuff I understand, I guess, but it's ultimately left a bad taste in my mouth. I think it's because I'm just getting older. It's because Superman was just really aggressive and quick and prone to being more reckless. I would say violent.
Yeah.
And it's because he's young. Right. He doesn't fully understand his powers. He's not, and we'll get to powers later, but he's really still leaping at this point.
Right. See, to me, that's a positive in my book, whereas it's a negative in yours.
It's a negative because it just, and this is a lot of what New 52 may have turned a lot of people off, where it's like, this ain't your daddy's Superman, which he eventually quickly turn into, he is your daddy's Superman.
Not really till he dies. Spoilers.
He does, in fact. He is quite dead.
So for me, I love the fact, actually, that he was kind of almost reckless and he was still letting his emotions get control of him. Because this is supposed to be like a late teens, maybe early 20s at the most. But I feel like this is more of a late teens Clark. And at that age, you're emotional. It's the fact...
Well, it's like, just like I said, I think the reason it's more on me about why I didn't like it, because I guess I'm getting older and I want Clark to be a nice young man.
I want Clark to be someone my daughter could marry.
Yeah. I mean, because up until this point, most of the Superboy we see is Clark just sort of like, well, I better do the right thing because that's what Mom and Pa would want me to do.
In this, he's doing the right thing too. He's just doing it in his own way. He doesn't have to follow your rules, man.
God damn it,
the boss of him.
Clark, if you want to sleep under this roof,
that's why he's not. That's why he's going to go live with that old woman
Mrs.
landlord.
Nixley, which is maybe a Mr. Mitzelflick thing. I don't know.
I don't think so. If they did, then I completely missed that issue, I guess.
I will say this. This is written by Grant Morrison, and this is the most normal Grant Morrison comic book I've ever read.
That is definitely for sure.
It's as if someone in DC said, "Don't be Grant Morrison. You have written All-Star Superman, and we let you do whatever the fuck you want. This is Action Comics. Just tone it, reel it in, Grant. Reel it in." So we get aggressive young Superman, and the costume does get explained how he gets it. I think it's in volume 2 or whatever.
Yeah, it's an armored suit. I think it's at the end of volume 1.
I believe so.
2,
I think so.
Who knows? I guess y'all do. So let us know how wrong we were.
We only really needed to read the first issue of this. I went ahead and read like the first volume.
Yeah, I've read the first volume, but it's been forever ago. For this, I just reread the first issue.
And so it ultimately gets to be something I like, but it has to grow on me. Reading just this issue, I'm not left really wanting to pick up issue number 2.
See, for me, I feel like Grant Morrison watched Spider-Man 2 and then decided to write this. Because I just feel like, well, you have the big train scene at the end, which is very reminiscent. But then you also even have when he stops the homeless people from getting hit by the wrecking ball and the building crashing on them.
Yeah.
And the cop showing up, all of the city rising up to stop it, which is great. I actually like this in a Superman thing, because at this point, it's like he's young, he's kind of reckless. It almost kind of reminds me of the end of season 2 of Smallville when he puts on the red ring and is just sort of being like, but then he's being evil. Here he's at least still being good, but he's reckless, and it shows him as like the people's hero. The people of the city love him and are willing to stand in front of tanks to protect him.
Yeah,
and I really like that. It shows that he's loved by the people, hated by, the authority, which once again is very reminiscent of Spider-Man. That's why I feel Grant Morrison must have just recently been watching or reading Spider-Man.
I agree with the end of Smallville season 2, except he is by no means as cool as Red K. Clark.
Oh no, Red K. Clark is by far cooler.
Red K. Clark, in fact, this podcast will slowly dissolve into just a tribute to Red K. Clark.
It'll be a tribute to Red K. Clark and Alicia Kent and Clark Kent's true love.
I thought the landlady character was, to my knowledge, she's new, created for this. I mean, maybe not, but I liked her, and I liked that she kind of knew that who Clark Kent was. Like she wasn't
sort
complete.
Hinted at, yeah.
She wasn't like a complete idiot. She kind of knew. I also thought this would be so much better if she was like Jane Krasinski or whatever her name is from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I don't know if anybody watches this, but if she were like that landlady, I would have enjoyed this a lot more.
That's not Jane. Jane Krasinski's the rich woman in that movie, that show.
Carol Kane.
There you go.
I got it. Eventually.
Yes.
Well, that was the point of this podcast, for me to get the names of those people.
And now we've done it. So
we did it. Supes on.
It's over.
So, if you have any questions, email us.
Email us at soupsonpodcast.
Soupsonpod or Carol Kane Shrine at tumblr.com or whatever the fuck.
/Yahoo.
/Yahoo. One thing that Superman does, he says, like, that ain't Superman. Like, I don't know if that's supposed to be like a catchphrase. He just says, like, if you want all this other bullshit to happen, well, whatever.
Jon is currently wearing a t-shirt that says, that ain't Superman.
That ain't Superman. I bought 5 of these. They would be... I bought stock in the That Ain't Superman. Unofficially licensed product.
Yes. I really did like this. I like the landlord of the character, but like as I said, it reminds me a lot of, I feel like it had a very Spider-Man-ish feel, but I love Spider-Man, so I was like, I'm okay with that. But at the same time, it didn't feel new.
You're right. And that's the whole point of this. It's the new 52.
It did feel new for Superman.
True.
But it didn't feel new. It felt like they were using plot lines that have been done a million times before, but now with Superman.
Yeah, like how would Superman react to all this bullshit?
Right, it's like you've seen how literally every other superhero in the entire universe would have reacted. So now here's how Superman would react.
Yeah, and I think that's my main takeaway from this. It's supposed to be the new 52. This is Superman. I'm like, yeah, it's new for Superman, but a lot of the other stuff is the same.
Yeah.
Lex is so much the same. He's bland. Lex isn't...
I thought the fact when Lex was there with General Lane sipping champagne... I just fucking hated that.
Especially since this is Grant Morrison, we know what he can write and what he has written.
Yeah, this was kind of weak for him.
I mean, especially some Grant Morrison stuff can be so off the wall, it just turns me off. But there can be such great just fantasy. I love, and when Grant Morrison's good, he's great. Right. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
like
sure.
The All-Star Superman, I love that the whole world is this weird, like, land that
right.
not Superman's like fits in. in a weird way. Like, he's not like the standout. So in this, it's just so drab. Lois is pretty much Lois.
So I don't feel like it's drab. I really do feel like this is exciting.
Really, because it was kind of a chore to read. I'm not going to lie to you.
I honestly felt this was pretty exciting to read because you have this Superman who is busting in, stopping. It wasn't a congressman like it was in Action Comics. It's just a businessman,
right?
Forcing him to reveal, and it's like he's young. He doesn't know what he should be doing. He's literally throwing him off a building and then preventing him from dying. And then when the cops show up, he's genuinely surprised, like they're out to get him. It's like you just threw a dude off a building, but come on, I really do. To me, this is the type of Clark that I wish we could have more of.
Really?
I like the young, emotionally charged, reckless Clark. I really do. I know a lot of people didn't like New 52 Superman, and that's probably why he's deceased. But I enjoyed him. I liked it a lot. I kind of felt like it was a nice... I don't think we need him forever, but I did feel like it was a nice switcheroo, I guess.
Right, and over time, we're going to see so many different versions of Superman.
Right.
And so this Superman was ultimately unpopular, even though he sold a lot of comics.
The beginning of his... I think volume 1 through 3 of his issues were... of the New 52 sold really well and were well loved by critics. It wasn't until they started... We will get into it eventually, I'm sure. But until like volume 4 and 5 is when critics started really disliking it.
Yeah, because there's so much promise at the beginning. Now, since a lot of the New 52, which isn't, technically over or didn't really go away, it's sure as hell not the focus going forward.
No. Well, not for in the Superman world.
Definitely not the Superman world. I'm a little fuzzy on the deets, but to my understanding, New 52 didn't die, even though a lot of people you read on the internet...
you would think that it did, even though in reality the only thing from New 52 that really died was Superman.
So, that being said, Superman's sort of, I guess, he's the main guy, so he kind of directly relates to this.
Yeah.
New 52 is definitely, for the most part, just not the focus, and it may not be dead, but it's kind of over... Right? Is that true? Is that true?
No.
Or am I just not?
I don't think so. It's not at all. I feel like it's, for me anyway, Rebirth has just started, if you can't tell. But to me, it seems like New 52 is still very much alive. It's just that they're wanting to bring in some of the previous canon. So it's almost, to me, it's almost like they're saying, we realize New 52 wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And so we're going to bring in some stuff to fix that. However, it's still New 52. It's sort of like, hey... It's almost like a patch on New... It's like when you have a video game and you have to download the patch. It's almost like the patch for New 52.
In that sort of DC saying... I wouldn't go so far in saying they would admit that it's a failure because
it's definitely not.
Because that's a very profitable failure if it's a failure. They made a lot of fucking money.
A ton of money, and they're keeping most of it. It's sort of like, hey, we realize you couldn't save once you got to this one spot, so we sent out a patch. But
with the advertising campaign, it's all rebirth. Everything's either new or back to the way it used to be. And they're really downplaying any New 52. Mm-hmm. So New 52 is not gone.
Oh, yeah. So the New 52 brand is dead.
Yeah.
But the New 52 universe is still very much alive.
So I'm left wondering, was that always the plan, or did New 52 just kind of run its course?
It ran its course for sure, because if you look back, I think it was 2010 when New 52 started, like DC had a lot. They were dominating market sales for a while.
Yeah.
When that happened. And recently, I believe over the last couple of years, and everybody please correct me, that Marvel has slowly started to take back over.
Really?
And think a lot of that has to do with their, the cinematic success.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And drives, comic readers. But it has started to slip back over. So they were like, well, let's go back and we're losing some of those new people that joined on. Mm-hmm. So let's be sure we reclaim all the old people that left.
So, which leads to a question here about getting invested and attached to certain characters now. If just give it time and these people will go away.
It's if you feel that way, then don't ever read a comic.
I guess you just shouldn't be reading comics.
You shouldn't read a comic if you feel that way.
But I can understand how you would feel that way, but to me, I like it. I like that. In fact, I would want comics to treat their stories more like TV seasons. I really wish they would.
Me too.
It's just so much. It's easier. It's cleaner.
It is.
And you allow more time for growth. And Also, it's just so fucking confusing now to have to keep up with all these continuities. Like whenever I watch, like in this issue, going back to this issue, the thing we're supposed to actually be talking about, Superman. He's new, so it's understandable why Superman wouldn't know to call like the Flash or some shit.
Well, in fact, at this point, so the thing that I liked about this also was within the New 52. So Action Comics was taking place originally 5 years before all the other Superman titles.
Yeah.
So this was literally just the adventures of young Clark.
Yeah.
It was, and I love that. I wish we had more of that, but
especially considering you already had Superman to do the present day
right,
stuff.
which was all the present day stuff. So it would definitely make sense because at that point in time in the New 52 universe, it's like pretty much Batman was the only hero that was operating.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And maybe they get to this in comics I just didn't get to or read, but does the 0 year affect Superman in any way? Like Batman has this big thing where the Riddler like shuts down the city or something, that shit. I mean, because there's an issue of the Flash where Barry Allen just happened to be in Gotham during that time.
Well, so the only thing they didn't really do a 0 year that I am aware of.
Well, of course in Batman comics, of course, but there was like
I know, for Batman they did, but I'm not really aware of one for Action Comics.
I mean,
they had the one issue, the 0 year issue.
Okay,
but for all the other comics, that was just pretty much one issue.
Okay.
For Batman, they did 2 volumes of season arc on it.
So that was the extent. It's just like Superman kind of hears about it like that sucks to live in Gotham anyway.
Yeah, it would essentially be that. And honestly, I mean, he's young.
He's not going to give a shit.
He's not going to give a shit.
This is long before the Justice League comes around,
and he doesn't know the extent of his powers at all yet. If he hears about some shit happening in Gotham, he's like, man, I'd love to help, but I got to be home for supper.
I got to be home for supper. And this,
I have that on my T-shirt.
I really want us to sell Supes on T-shirts, like "Got to be home for supper."
Gotta be home for supper.
Can
Number one seller.
Can we sell a shirt that says "That ain't Superman"? And we legally say, well, we say it's not Superman. So,
if you're a lawyer, let us know at soupsonpodcast@gmail.com.
We are seeking legal counsel. I guess we mentioned powers. Let's go ahead and just
not many.
Not a whole lot. We have leaping, which is sort of flight.
No, we didn't have flight at all.
I mean, you can call it that, but we
didn't have flight at all. All we had was leaping.
I mean, like leaping could be like just like a really
because there were times in Smallville when he was supposed to be leaping that was obviously flight. Like when he jumped on the rocket and he did that. All the rest of the time it's leaping because every time he fell or did anything, I mean, he was falling.
I guess so. I'm just because if I'm looking at Superman, I'm thinking anytime he leaps really high, it's bleeding into flight, sort of.
I don't know. To me, it was all pure leaping. So, agree to disagree.
Well, he does have strength.
We'll put a poll up on this.
Well, we should do like a Twitter poll or something. Yeah. He got super strength.
Super strength?
Super strength. He's super stunk, if you ask me. He has invulnerability, speed, heat vision, super hearing, X-ray vision, and I don't think I missed any. I think
kind of heat vision. Or did you say heat vision?
Heat vision. Well, he's just like
red eyes.
Red eyes. Yeah, that's about it.
So
to look menacing.
And I'm pretty sure one of those homeless people he saved said, "You have icy cool breath."
Yeah,
it was a deleted panel.
It's the director's cut.
Yes.
Which we'll just assume young Clark doesn't realize he has freeze breath.
No ice breath now. Every time we ever review anything with ice breath, it's.
I'm thinking I love he has freeze breath, but would it come out freezing? Wouldn't it just be more hot air?
Wouldn't be hot air. It'd be cold air.
I'm just thinking because your mouth is warm.
Yeah, but you can blow cool. That's why you blow on soup to cool it off and stuff.
Jeremy, your mouth is warm.
That's you would know.
That's the other T-shirt. It just says your mouth is warm.
Your mouth is warm. Jeremy, your mouth is warm.
As far as efficiency of these powers, I mean, he's young, reckless Clark. But, to be honest with you, I didn't see anything that was, too really fucked up.
No, I didn't either. Well, I mean, kind of risky throwing the businessman off the roof.
Well, that was for effect.
Yeah, it was for effect.
And he did get his point across.
For sure, but I mean, still,
He did endanger a man's life kind of needlessly.
Especially when it's shown he's not in full control, or he doesn't fully know his powers and stuff.
Right.
That might have been a little risky. But yeah, overall, very efficient.
Did we get to kryptonite at all? I don't think so.
There was no kryptonite in this.
I just, for some reason, maybe I'm thinking of later comics.
You are. Yeah, the kryptonite was not mentioned.
At all. So yeah, Superman up to this point
invulnerable.
And
we did have invulnerability.
Yeah, that's right.
The one we always forget.
So if there's no kryptonite, then it's very possible up until this point Superman thinks that like, well, fucking nothing can kill me.
No kryptonite and no magic.
No magic. So Superman's flying really high without actually flying.
He's leaping high.
He's leaping high, taking a leap of faith.
All right.
You see, let's get into some facts and/or stats.
All right. So you got any interesting stats or facts for this?
I got a couple. Mrs. Nixley, the landlady, in this, and of course I get all my shit from the internet. So if it's wrong, blame the internet. That's my motto in life. That's my family mantra. Mrs. Nixley mentions that 3 of Clark's friends stopped by. She is referring to the Legion of Superheroes who went back in time to prevent his death. Kind of cool. I don't remember it, but apparently this is true and happened.
Interesting.
So yeah, very cool. I like that the Legion of Superheroes is a thing in Clark's life. I'm glad it's a recurring thing throughout the decades. I'm happy that the Legion gets there. Glenn Morgan lives in the Reeve building, which is, of course, reference to Superman actor Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
And also, finally, Lois Lane is wearing a Keystone City shirt. Keystone City, of course, is the twin city of Central City, home of the Flash. So,
thank you, Wikipedia.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Jonopedia. So it's assumed Lois is just wearing a Keystone shirt because it's whatever.
Maybe she went to college there.
It's possible she went to Keystone College or Keystone University.
The fact that we mentioned this, and this is completely off topic, but that's what we encourage around here.
Yes.
So there is if you are at all familiar with Reddit.com, there is a writing prompt that if you can search for and find it, you have to. This guy posted a writing prompt where he basically said Clark Kent and Barry Allen, college, he meant to say colleagues, go on vacation together, but somebody wrote a prompt as if there were these colleges leaving their foundations to go on a vacation. And it is one of the best reads ever, so go find it if you can.
These buildings get sentience.
And it's all of the deans that get up thing, hey, these colleges have been here forever, we're going to go vacation in the woods.
These living buildings just... That's what I think. Just
that's
literally,
what it is. No, that's how it is. That's how it's written out.
Literally, these living buildings.
These buildings, because it was written out as if they go out there and there's like a killer in the woods. Who it's like, but little does he know that colleges, Barry Allen, Clark Kent, Diana, Prince
huge.
Out there. And so, yeah, I won't give away the ending, but go read that prompt.
And it's not just one building. They have several buildings on campus.
Yeah.
I like to think that, was it Danny the Street kind of connects
Danny the Street, the best Teen Titan ever.
Which we should be talking. This should be a podcast about Danny the Street.
Danny the Street's on. But we can't really have we couldn't have a street on, street off.
Can we have a street?
He's always on.
Yeah, he's always on. He potentially is a godlike thing where he creates people.
At least a demigod, at the very least.
He creates life.
Yes.
And when he's done with him, he ends that life.
Yeah, that might be Danny the Alley now.
Danny the Hell. It's funny whenever he creates people to be in his weird fake shops he creates. It'd be funny if he changes form. These people are alive, but they just die gruesome deaths. The buildings collapse on them. Danny, no.
The bricks are made of blood.
That's true. Thick blood. How about we get into whether or not we thought this is Supes on or Supes
I'm going to give my little stat.
Oh, you have a stat.
Well, not a stat.
A fact.
More of an observance.
An observation. Supes observation.
Supes observation. So it makes sense that Smallville, Lois and Clark, Adventures of Superman, all of the TV shows first premiered in September, as that's generally when new shows start.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that the New 52 #1 also started in September.
That's right. That was the publication date.
Yeah.
40 ounces of Corona.
40 ounces of Corona. I just thought that was interesting because there's no real reason for it to necessarily line up like that.
Yeah, it's kind of just an arbitrary thing.
Yeah, just an observance. That's something that I didn't find on the internet. I observed myself, Mr. Wikipedia.
Oh, shit. Well, I can edit Wikipedia if I want.
That's true.
I don't.
Now it's going to be on Wikipedia.
Because who has the time?
Well, I mean, we're recording a podcast about Superman. Obviously, we both have the time.
I don't know what I would edit on Wikipedia that isn't just like a big joke, you know?
That's what we used to do. There's a guy also named John, not this John,
No.
that we knew who really just did not understand a lot of jokes. And so we edited the humor Wikipedia page to say that he was the only living person to be discovered without a sense of humor. And he was furious at us and did not understand the humor in the situation. Very much like Wikipedia said.
Well, I mean, he can't get mad at the facts.
It's online. It has to be true. Of course, it was only online for like 5 minutes because Wikipedia is full of people who are like, "This isn't true. We better change it." We used to also go into Wikipedia for like really random countries and change one of their exports because it would be forever before anybody would notice. But we just like the idea of some kid doing his report on like Zambia and saying their number one export was like cream corn.
See, I would have went with a more vulgar route, like Zambia, biggest export dildos.
We wanted to do it to where it was like slightly realistic enough.
Yeah, it could be real.
That it might last like several months before
Green corn.
We'd be like, they export a lot of broccoli.
Yeah, just what they grow a lot of it out there.
Ton of broccoli in Zambia.
They love it. They can't get enough.
All right, so let's go on to Supes on, Supes off.
What
is Supes on, Supes off, John?
Supes on or Supes off? What is this? Supes on is, if it's Supes on, that means it ultimately helped Superman. More specifically, it helped Superman in his mythos. It encouraged people to read Superman, to get people interested in Superman when they weren't before. It made Superman not boring. It helped the character.
Yes.
Because there's been a lot of Superman throughout the years and the decades, and there's been a lot of different versions, so it can get kind of convoluted. So in this, we look at Action Comics for the New 52. Did this help out Superman at all?
So I'm giving it a Supes on.
You're getting a Supes on, okay.
So I'm giving it a Supes on because I feel it's different. It's sort of the thing to where, because New 52 was all about trying to get people who hadn't been reading to come in and look at it. And if you're somebody who's always thought, you always had this one version of Superman in your mind, and you pick up Action Comics #1, you're like, hey, this ain't Superman.
That ain't Superman.
As the shirt says. But it's enjoyable. I mean, it's entertaining throughout, and it presents Superman in a new light that isn't really anti-Superman. This is just young Superman. And so, like, if this was Superman #1 and not Action Comics #1,
yeah,
I might go a different way. However, as it's Action Comics, I feel like, hey, this is young, and they very distinctively said this is young Clark as opposed to the regular Superman Clark.
Right.
And so, me, I think this is great. I think this is a jumping on point. People can be like, hey, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was kind of a douchebag a little bit too, or a little bit prone to violence. I don't know. I
went to jail.
I mean, just for a few years, but I think it's great. To me, I'd say it's Supes on. It is a little bit contrived. I do feel like a lot of stuff's been done before, but I feel like if you're somebody who's giving Superman a try again, I don't feel it's boring.
You see, I went ahead and gave it a Supes off. The rare John McBride Supes off. I don't give a lot. I gave it a Supes off, and the thing is, I agree with everything you said. I agree that it is new by design, and it did attract new people because you can look at the sales figures or whatever. It made money. I gave it a Supes off because ultimately, while it is new and ultimately it actually did serve its purpose, I was just left a little bored by reading this. I gotta tell you, I figure Superman himself is really the only thing that's really new about this. But like you said, a lot of this we've seen before. And if you're someone who doesn't like Superman, okay, so this takes place 5 years before regular Superman, the Superman line of comics. You know that he ends up being the regular boring Superman you know anyway.
That's a conversation for when we review Superman #1 of the New 52.
That's true. That is very true. So I gave it a Supes off. This is a barely giving it a Supes off because I think it served its purpose being new and everything. That's the New 52, the whole idea. I was just left feeling kind of like, all right, let's get to the end of the issue. So as a story by itself, I was just left like, kind of indifferent.
I guess I could see if you're a big comic book reader and you're reading this, if you're not the new comic book reader, I can see this being potentially a Supes off because you've seen a lot of it before. But I feel like for what it was aimed for, which was the new comic book reader.
Right. And that's the whole GD point, is to get new people to read Superman, and it clearly did that. They dropped off and wanted him dead. but
And I didn't feel like it was so boring that if you were an existing comic book reader, you wouldn't continue reading.
I think at this point, if it's Superman, I mean, he's going to sell comics. He can have like up to 4 titles a month.
Yeah. Which he does.
He does. I mean, so Superman can sell comics, and I have read excellent issues of Superman, and I have read some just fucking boring issues of Superman.
That's right, guys. More boring issues coming up.
More boring. It's what you have to look forward to. And also, we discuss whose mouth is warm and whose mouth isn't warm.
It was mine. Mine was the warm one.
Well, spoilers for anyone.
Shirt number 2.
Shirt number 2. If you would like to purchase a shirt, go to a place that sells shirts. I don't know. We don't necessarily sell shirts.
No, not at all.
Not
J. Crew does. So does the Gap.
I will sell you some of my shirts that have nothing to do with Superman.
I don't have any. I have one Superman shirt that doesn't fit me anymore. Sure, you can buy it.
I take it back. I presently do have a shirt that has the Superman symbol on it. So there's that.
I have a ring that has it on it.
Your mouth is so warm.
As you say, every freaking night. So, occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally. So a quick note on this. I'm catching up on a lot of the New 52 comics presently. And even though I know it's kind of sort of wrapped up, that's kind of weird, whatever. When I say kind of sort of wrapped up, I mean from 2011 through 2015 or whatever.
We're in 2016.
2016, whatever.
This podcast recorded January 1st, 2015. Despite us talking about Rebirth intimately.
Yeah. So I think because there's a good chunk of the New 52 that is pretty solid. Like, this is just what it is. I feel like I can kind of read it all, even though some of it
it's
may
your dream of it being a TV season.
Yeah,
almost.
Even though some of it's maybe still canon, some of it's not canon anymore. Whatever. I feel like I can read all of it.
Yeah.
And what I will do with this knowledge,
it's all still canon.
Yeah.
There's no real canon change as of now. By the time this is released, of course, it'll be like, of this was a dream and the Wally West head.
Wally West. And that's another thing I really want to find out about it. Like, because Barry Allen's like, oh, yeah, you're Wally. I'm like, if you're pre-New 52, you should remember Wally. I don't understand this. But then again, this is just...
But no, it specifically even covered that in Flashpoint. The longer he was in the new reality, he lost his memories.
No. That was
Go back and reread Flashpoint, John. That's shirt number 4. Go back and reread Flashpoint, John.
Specifically, I just want the picture of just me and my arms crossed, like refusing. Like, no. Nah.
That's on the back.
That's on the back. You can't make me.
All right, well, we still have our diss track coming up. And as always, you can reach us at soupsonpodcast@gmail.com, soupsonpodcast at Twitter or Facebook. So next week, we may be discussing Superman Returns. We may be discussing something else.
Hey, the sky is the limit, and that's where you should be looking, up in the sky.
That's right, where you can see birds or planes, and that's it, because Superman does not actually exist. He is a fictional character. You could also see satellites, stars, planets, and various other things.
And suicide jumpers.
And suicide jumpers. Be on the lookout for suicide jumpers.
Yeah. Or just people being thrown by Superman himself.
Superman. No, he's a fictional character, John. We just established.
And this is why people are committing suicide. They can't live in a world
without Superman.
Without the Man of Steel.
That's true. I know I couldn't. So stay tuned for the diss track, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Not your daddy's Clark, he's gritty and dark. New to the city, twisting Lexus hitty. Kick a drone, slap a tank, destroy government property, then drink my drink. Short temper, short sleeves, crooked politicians are my pet peeves. Clark Kent can make the rent in his shitty apartment. It don't pay to run an extra gang. Clark should have found